Clean up your language. Watch your language. I think we left off with something last week, didn't we? Didn't I give you homework?
Joshua Harris.
Did you look him up? Who did their homework?
I don't even know what it was.
The only one who has an excuse that can say the dog ate it is Susan.
I didn't know we
Lost
had
it.
homework.
I don't either. I don't
Did
have a
anybody
note.
look up Joshua Harris?
I did.
Oh, yes, we did have.
Oh,
Yeah.
No,
Okay. What did you find out about?
not a thing.
Well, I like your honesty anyway. What did we find out about it? Because I think when we left off, we were talking about, is it possible to lose your salvation?
Yeah.
is that the one that was he was a pastor of a big mega church and then he just walked away and said he was an atheist?
Right. This guy was an author. He was one of those really cool, hip pastors that attracted, very charismatic, attracted a big following.
Joshua Harris.
And then all of a sudden, I think it was a year ago during the summer.
I know we talked about it one time in Bible Study, but I can't remember whether we were at church or online.
From
But
Dayton, Ohio.
Let's see, he wrote an article. Wait a minute. There was an article on him in Christianity Today about what happened to him. I'm looking for some of the stuff. I'm trying to.
Oh, is he? His book was like his Christianity Goodbye.
I think that's one of the articles written about it. He also ended his relationship with his wife. He ended his marriage.
Oh,
Mhm.
Here's the, I'll show you this real quick. Oh, Judy is here. All right, good.
I don't see Judy. Yeah, I saw that picture somewhere.
Okay. And I'm trying to scroll down and look at the reasons.
yeah.
He basically, if you look right here, he apologizes to the LGBTQ community. I want to say I'm sorry for the views I taught in my books as a pastor regarding sexuality. I regret standing against marriage equality. I contributed to a culture of exclusion and bigotry. He confirmed his divorce, announcing the end of his 21-year marriage. So this guy's got a lot of things going on. Okay.
Well, that's a radical change. So something
That
must
is a
have-
radical change. So we can get into some of the things he's talking about in just a second. But is this a guy who was, how would you approach this? Was this a guy who was saved? He was a pastor. Was he a Bible believing Christian in a relationship with God who simply threw his salvation away and walked away from it? Or was he never saved? Judy's walking off into the woods.
Mm-mm.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Or was he simply someone who was never saved to begin with?
well, you'd almost have to know what event happened that he changed so drastically.
Yeah, something triggered.
Yeah, because you
Not sure that
can't
he
wake
ever-
up one morning and not, you know.
Because we're
and
not
everything-
talking about a subtle change here. We're talking about 180 degrees.
Right.
Mhm.
I
But he never says what caused him.
Well,
to-
I think in some of his other conversations, he may go into it, but basically, he walked away from Christianity because he felt it was intolerant, and he was putting more faith in the social justice part of it than in the gospel. So he was looking at a Christian faith that he believed was not upholding the rights of certain groups of people, and he said he just couldn't support that. Now, why you would write a book and publish material saying that marriage is between a man and a woman, that homosexuality is a sin, and then completely change and go the other direction, I honestly cannot understand that.
Well, someone close to him must have something. I would
Is-
think, I mean, how, you could say, oh, I'm against it, I'm against it, I'm against it. And then your child comes to you and says, but I can't help it. And you love that child. So do you bend? I mean, but
Oh boy,
he
that's
didn't
a
bend, he broke.
terrific question.
But he didn't bend, he broke. So.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't make any difference if it's your child.
But you can bend and still love that person and temper some of your reaction to it without losing your faith in God. But it sounds like he lost his connection to God.
You said something very significant there, that your child comes to you and says, what? I'm just born this way. So
Yeah.
God made me.
I
right?
can't help. Yeah.
Right. That's what we hear all the time, right?
Right.
But go to Romans 3. Somebody start reading at verse 9. Yeah, maybe 9 through 18. Maybe those 9 verses.
What shall we conclude then? Do we have any advantage? Not at all, for we have already made the charge that Jews and Gentiles, am I right place? Are alike, are all under the power of sin, as it is written. There is no one righteous, not even one.
Well,
No one who understands,
oh,
no one who seeks God,
all right.
turn away and have together become worthless. There's no one who does good, and not even one. Their throats are open graves. Their tongues practice deceit. The poison of viper is on their lips. Their mouths are full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Run the misery mark their ways, and the way of peace they do not know. There is no fear of God before their eyes.
Okay, so what is Paul saying here in terms of being born a certain way? We're all born that way.
That's what I thought.
We're all born sinners, so
Exactly. And everybody is born that way into sin. Some of it manifests itself in a certain way. And it's different for different people, but we're all born as sinners, estranged from God. Does God want us to stay that way?
No.
No.
No. Okay, so we're born sinners. So what does Jesus tell Nicodemus in John 3? You must be what?
in
Born again in the spirit. We're all born into the flesh as sinners. We must be born again in the spirit. We're all born sinful. We're all born sinful. So
but it sounds like this guy was upset that God wasn't doing things the way he wanted them to.
That's
God-
possible too. I do not pretend to understand what this guy's rationale was. I was just touching a little bit on the homosexuality argument. But let's look at that part of it. He was upset that God wasn't doing what?
He wanted social justice and things weren't just according to his point of view. So he was angry at God, essentially.
Okay, so he was upset with God because he was trying to turn God into a God that he wanted. And we've talked about that before. That one of the issues we have, one of our failings, is trying to make God into a God that we like and we can handle. Surely if God was who he says he is, he wouldn't do that. And so we start reinterpreting the Bible. Well, it can't really say that. God certainly can't mean that. So I suppose some people do walk away from the faith because they're trying to turn God into a God that he is not. We have to accept God for who he is, not who we want him to be.
Okay, so then back to the original question, was he never saved?
From my perspective, that's an impossible question to answer. Did he simply walk over? Some people would say, no, he never could have been saved, because once you have the regenerating power of the Holy Spirit in you, you're a new creation, as it's described in 2 Corinthians 5:17. And then you start living life in the Spirit. Can someone throw that away? Can someone simply get rid of that? Well, think of it this way. Is there something in your life, is there a cataclysmic event in your life that would cause you to walk away from your faith? See a lot of heads shaking no. Is there anything that could happen in your life that would cause you to walk away from your faith?
Well,
I don't think so, but then
go ahead.
horrible things haven't, things have happened that might push someone else to walk away. They haven't me, but you don't know, okay, so that in Nazi Germany, the Jews were exterminated. If you were part of that, would that make you feel like you could walk away? I don't know. I hope I'm never tested that way. I don't think that I would, but
Linda, what were you going to say?
I don't know. He's
What?
asking you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking about something else. I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
oh, I'm sorry.
Is there any event in your life that would cause you to walk away from faith?
Yeah, I was going to say I've not had experienced anything at this point in my life. I'm not saying I never could. I don't know what might happen to me, what might shake my faith or.
Isn't it that our faith is supposed to make us stronger? That the testing and the difficulty and the suffering we go through is actually designed to draw us closer to God.
Okay, maybe he was a part of a Christian sect that just did not accept homosexuality at all, whether it was a sin or not. They just would not even accept it in their presence. And if you were a homosexual, you were going to hell, period. Where there's other churches who are more accepting, and they say all along, we're all sinners. We can't judge other people. Maybe he was in a really, really judgmental church.
But he was the pastor, though.
Yeah.
I know, but maybe that's the way that church, that church, if he didn't start the church, he came into that church, And maybe that church was set up basically to be a very apostolic kind of church.
Mm.
I suppose that's possible. But still, I keep coming to this, back to this idea of, is it possible to just walk away from your faith? Or if that's true, did you ever have true saving faith?
Yeah.
While you're thinking about that, let me pull up another story
And
related to
confuse us
this
some more.
that I just saw, related to this discussion. All right, I'll show you the headline here. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's not really funny.
Oh, forgot
This is
Is this
apparently
fake news?
in Spain, a Spanish bishop has left the Roman Catholic Church after becoming smitten with a writer of satanic erotic fiction.
He
Now,
was
of
selling
course,
too long.
it's a little different for Catholics because, they take the vows of celibacy.
Yeah.
But I'm looking here. This guy says he's now looking for employment as a crop expert or agronomist. So anyway, I do know that a lot of Catholic priests who have fallen in love and wanted to get married, they simply leave the Catholic Church and go study and become a pastor in another denomination. But that's a pretty bold step to take, to just walk away from everything. You think about that.
It's almost like not only did he walk away from Christianity, he essentially embraced evil.
Yeah.
Going down to Bishop.
Bishop, yeah.
Well, one thing we do know is that even priests, pastors, ministers are all subject to temptation. And it's not like you go through life with a bubble around. And there have been some pretty bad pastors and ministers and priests. You think of the scandal in the Catholic Church. But again, my head just keeps going back to this idea. What would so for that guy, it was the love of a woman. He said he fell in love. That he would walk away from the faith for them.
Well, but maybe she cast a spell on him.
Well, if you read that article, it's kind of interesting. His colleagues said that they felt he was demon possessed. Which is an interesting thing to say. You don't hear much about demon possession today. Good topic for next week. We'll talk about that. But the trials and temptations, the difficulties of life either bring us closer to God or drive us farther away from Him. And I suppose there are events in people's lives where enough things pile up, they can just say, God, that's enough. That's it.
Yeah.
Like that lady I was telling you about, going through the death of a husband, the death of a mother, and now cancer. It's a lot on somebody's plate. What is the Bible? Let's see. Let's see if I can find this verse. Let's try 1 Corinthians 10:13. 1 Corinthians 10:13.
Corinthians.
Oh,
No,
actually, we'll start at 12 and 13.
so if you think you are standing, watch out that you do not fall. No testing has overtaken you that is not common to everyone. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tested beyond your strength, but with the testing, he will also provide the way out so that you may be able to endure it.
Okay. What do you think as you hear that? What does that suggest to you?
God will give you strength if you, no matter how you're
You have
tested.
to ask.
Whatever you're going through, no matter how much it is, God has promised that it will not be more than you can bear.
Mhm. We've heard that several times.
That he is going to, it says he will provide what? A way out so that you can stand up to it. So when you get to that point, when you feel like you're at the breaking point, remember, God is still there, that he is going to provide you enough strength to get through this, and that he is not going to give you more than you can stand. So I think that should be of great comfort to us. Because I think most everyone can think of times in their lives where they were severely tested. They went through great difficulty. Did anybody ever get to what they felt was their breaking point?
Yeah, and then I've had a conversation with God about, okay, this is my point. I need help. And somehow that helps only because you feel like you're unloading part of the effort, which you are.
Say that again, I missed that part.
I said it seemed like that helped, and maybe it helps because you feel like you're unloading part of the effort to get through it, and really that's what you're doing. You're asking for him to help you carry the.
Well, let's say you are close to a breaking point, or someone was close to a breaking point, and you called me, and I said, well, listen, don't worry. 1 Corinthians 10:13. Let me read that to you. Is that what you want to hear?
Probably not.
I'm with Marvin.
What would help you in that situation?
Well, from another human, you want them to listen,
Okay.
and if they can offer valid advice, otherwise tell you how they'll pray with you to help you get through it or something like
Okay.
that.
So what we need in those situations, Susan, what did you do to your hand?
Pardon me?
Oh, nothing. It's those arm shields.
What we need in those situations is not necessarily someone reading Bible verses to us. We need someone to walk through the fire with us. This
Like a
is where, I'm sorry?
Like a support group.
Exactly. Or a congregation. This is what we're trying to do. That all of our faith is based on relationships. Relationship with us and God, relationship us one to another. That's why we build those relationships. That's why it's important to meet together. That's what we're trying to do on Thursday night and on Tuesday night, is to get together with people who have kind of been into the fire and say, look, you're not alone. We're walking through this with you. I just can't, I absolutely cannot emphasize that enough. That one of the great values, one of the great important things in our faith is developing these relationships so that we do not have to walk through the fire by ourselves. that you can pick up a phone, you can call someone, you can talk to somebody, like Anna said, who understands, who's going to be sympathetic, who can listen to you. Our Tuesday night group has a phone tree where if, and for a lot of them, that's really important, because if you're tempted to take a drink or do drugs, you can't get your sponsor, you got to talk to somebody.
Mhm.
And we're not designed to go through it alone. So I think that's a real important part of what we're trying to do, is to develop those relationships. And that's why I think the people who come for an hour on Sunday and no other time, they're missing out on so much. They're missing out on the development of those faith relationships. It was real interesting. I was talking to these guys, the guys in jail Tuesday, and a couple of them are getting out, I think tomorrow. And they said, you know, one of them said, I don't know how to live, which is a really interesting comment. What do you think he meant by that? When he said, I don't know how to live.
Out of an unstructured life, he has to go in to start learning how to do everything himself.
Right. And part of that too is I know how to live my life to screw it up.
Mhm.
I know how to go back to the drugs and the bad people, but I don't know how to live the way God wants me to live. I could sit here and say, well, let me read to you Galatians 5:16. I say, live by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the sinful nature. Good luck to you. I hope that works out. Let me know.
Mhm.
So, look, you need to get plugged in with other people. You need to get plugged into a group. You need to find a church. You need to start coming on Tuesdays. You need to start coming on Thursdays. Here's my phone number. You're walking with them. That to me is the face of Christianity. That's what it looks like. Or that's what it's supposed to look like.
I think some of this missions work that we're doing benefits us as much as it does the people we're trying to help, just because of the talking with the people, or talking with the people we work with, or, you know, interacting with the people.
Mhm.
That Lisa that I was telling you about was real interesting. At the
I
funeral.
know her. Does
Yeah.
she live around here?
No,
No.
she lives in Iowa. Her sister lives in Walden.
Okay,
Her sister is,
Charlene Merrill.
Charlene.
yes, thank you. But anyway, she said, you know, things got pretty bad for me the other day, and I was getting ready to pick up the phone and call you. And I said, why didn't you? Well, there was a knock on the door. I had the phone in my hand. There was a knock on the door, and a pastor came by to talk to me. So,
Oh,
man, God's taking care of you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Nice.
Mhm.
But we're in the relationship business. That's what we're supposed to be about. Pastor Randy tells this story. It's a true story. When he was young, and they sent him out to his first solo visit to the hospital. They said, oh, you're ready to go visit somebody. And it was a lady, older lady, who was getting ready to die. So he took his book out, it was all his Bible verses, and he was reading all his Bible verses, and then he finished and closed the book. She said, did that make you feel better? And he said, what do you mean? She said, it didn't do anything for me. Which is not to say the Bible cannot be helpful. It's just to say the way you really help people is not necessarily to quote scripture to them, but to walk with them.
Mhm.
That is what we're called to do. Why did Jesus send the disciples out 2 by 2? They were always traveling in pairs on mission work and ministry. It's all about creating those relationships. So I don't know how.
Paul
I'm
write
sorry.
all of those letters?
I'm sorry.
Why did Paul write all of those letters? He was trying to maintain a relationship with all the congregations that he had established on his missionary journeys.
He
didn't
absolutely
go
was.
on his own.
That's a very good point. It's interesting. I was going to say read some from Galatians, but he called them "you stupid Galatians." I don't think that's a way to build a relationship with somebody. Let's see. I can't remember which book it is. It's one of the Thessalonians where he talks about, "I long to come back and see you."
And a couple of them, he talks about how much they mean to him and how he misses them.
Right, exactly. And why did he keep going back to the same places? To develop those relationships. Might have been the church, might have been Thessalonians. Can't remember. How much I miss you and I long to see you. So yeah, it's all about that. That's really what it's all about. So I'm not sure how we got off on that, but that's fine. Okay.
Paul longing to see the Thessalonians is in 1 Thessalonians 2:17.
1 Thessalonians 2:17. Thessalonians 2:17. But brothers, when we were torn away from you for a short time, in person, not in thought, out of our intense longing, we made every effort to see you. For we wanted to come to you. Certainly I, Paul, did again and again. But Satan stopped us. Why would Satan stop that? What is Satan trying to do? Divide the body of believers,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Separate people from God, separate faithful, godly people from one another. And we always have to be aware of that. In any of the ministry work you've been doing, have you created relationships with someone else that are significant? Judy mentioned that.
Well, I was talking in Sunday school Sunday how good Patty is at remembering all their names and, asking about their children and, did they get their car fixed and all this kind of stuff. And I think Jerry Kuhn does a real nice job when he calls everybody for the bread and blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Which there are some, I do know from the Laundry Love that I talk with and stuff, but Patty knows them all.
And I think we underestimate how important and how powerful that is
Mm-hmm.
in a person's life, that someone would take time to remember them, to remember their name
Mhm.
and their situation.
Yeah.
That's really, really important. When I started going to the jail, I had no idea where to go or what to do. And someone said, well, maybe you should just go to here 1 week and here 1 week and here 1 week. No, I want to go back to the same place because I want to build long-term. These guys, I want to build long-term relationships. Because if we're trying to bring the gospel to someone, or anything really, what's the one thing they want to know about you? What's the
That you'll
one
be
important-
there.
Okay, that you'll be there. What else? And let's say you're meeting somebody you don't know. What is it, if you're gonna develop any kind of relationship, that you want from them? Or would want from them? What would be important to you?
Trust.
Trust. You've got to be able to trust somebody. And it's really, really hard to trust somebody you see one time and then never again.
You want to be able to depend on them,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
consistency.
Do you trust telemarketers when they call? Do you trust the emails you
Don't stay
get
on the phone
that
long
say
enough.
you've won $15 million in the Nigerian lottery? No, you don't know the people. Of course you don't trust them. So one of the most effective ways to spread the gospel is to build trust, where people say, oh, okay, now I can open up a little. Now I can listen to what you're saying. I'm more willing to listen to what you're saying because I'm trusting. I think that's especially true with these guys who have been marginalized. The recovering addicts, alcoholics, the guys in jail. They can't, their whole lives they haven't been able to trust anyone because people have just treated them like garbage. I'm not making excuses for them, believe me. A lot of them have made bad decisions. But to hear their stories, they grew up in abusive homes. They couldn't trust their own parents, even in a lot of cases. Can't trust anyone. Now we've got some Christians running around who are willing to throw away their faith for satanic fiction writers. Hard to trust Christians sometimes too. It's a lot of responsibility when you think about it. Somebody told me this one time, I can't remember who, but I really believe it. There is someone out there, their entire perception and understanding of who God is going to be what they see in you. Think about that for a minute. If you claim to be a Christian, there is someone out there, their entire understanding of who God is and what he looks like may be you. That is a heavy responsibility.
Oh, yeah. I never thought of that way, that I would be the representation for, well, I have in the work sense, you know, you represent your company and its ethics and whatever, but never thought of it in the Christian way.
It's
Kinda makes
really kind of, it puts a lot of pressure on you sometimes.
Maybe some good pressure.
Well, I was thinking there was a Bible verse attached to that, but I didn't see it. But maybe sometimes we can use that and think about that when we're tempted. Someone honks their horn at us or cuts us off in traffic or jumps ahead of us in line at the store.
What
Maybe
would
we-
Jesus do?
Yeah. That's a good way to think about it. My problem is I get too caught up in the moment sometimes. I was talking to a lady on customer service yesterday and lost my patience. And
Uh-oh.
I made sure I told her I'm not a Christian, so don't pay. I'm an atheist. So it's hard. It's hard sometimes. Boy, this discussion has skirted kind of all over the place. Where does it go now? So I think we're saying that there's really nothing in our lives that would cause us to throw away our faith.
I don't think so.
Tough question, but if you were in Afghanistan or someplace like that, and somebody pointed a gun at you and they're shooting Christians,
Yes.
are you willing to go all the way? I did hear the story on the radio one time of someone trying, a missionary trying to go into a Muslim country. And they were stopped at the border by a very officious guard, very scary looking person, other guards there as well, armed. And so this person gets to the border and is trying to get into the country, and this kind of mean looking guard looks at her, I think it was a her, and says, "Are you a Christian?" Now she's trying to go into a Muslim country. This guy's a fearsome looking guard, and he's armed. Now, what thoughts are running through your head at that point? What are your options?
Live or die.
Well,
Go the other way.
forgive me this, but I'm going to tell a lie.
Yeah.
You think God would forgive you if you did?
For better good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
really repented.
Mhm.
I'm sure. I mean, Peter denied the Lord.
But if it takes a lie to get in to do God's work, then kind of feel like you'd be forgiven the lie.
Okay, so the end kind of justifies the means.
Well, I think that's what you'd probably think at that time. Because if you said, yes, you were, and you were either denied entry or shot,
What if the guy shoots you anyway?
yeah. Then
Just
All right, just show of hands. How many people would lie thinking that, boy, I'll repent of that later and God will forgive me? How many people would lie?
I probably would.
I would.
I think I would. But
Everybody was
I don't-
waiting for you, Judy.
Yes.
How many people would tell the truth?
I think I would.
I would.
I think I would decide I didn't want to visit that country after all.
Yeah.
Is there another way in?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd present myself at that gate anyway, because if you're going there to help people, to save people, to spread the word, you need a plan that's going to actually work. And so that doesn't sound like it's a plan that would have even a 90% chance of 50% chance of working.
But wouldn't God know what's in your heart?
Mhm.
Well, I would think so.
I will. This is a true story, by the way. I'll tell you how it turned out. But go to Luke 9:26 real quick.
That's what we did.
Actually, start at 9:23. 9:23 through 26, if someone wants to read that.
Okay, 3:26. Luke 9. Hold it. Then he said to them all, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit his very self? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes to his glory and in the glory of the Father and of the holy angels.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
The one that sticks out to me is 26.
Yeah.
If anyone is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his glory and in the glory of the Father and his holy angels. I'm not sure that directly applies. I think it's probably more like what Judy said, that I think God would understand what's in your heart and know where you are. But
Well, look at all
That's
the lies and treacheries during the Second World War and all the people who had to lie and smuggle and do whatever they had to do to get people out of there. They were lying men. They lied to whoever they could to get people out of there. Did they all go to hell? I don't believe that.
I'm not suggesting
Well, but-
someone would go to hell for lying. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But yeah, I agree. I think the point is well taken. God would understand. God would certainly forgive. I think it's just an interesting test that very, 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 very few of us will ever have to go through. Like I said, it is a true story. And
What did she do?
the woman standing there, the guy's got his gun trained on her. Are you a Christian? She
And what did
decides
she
to
say?
She's decided to tell the truth and to say, yes, I am. And then he put his gun down and he said, tell me more about Jesus.
Uh-huh.
God had something with that.
Sounds like a fairy tale.
Very easily could have gone the other way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a one size fits all answer for this.
Well,
But there is someone who made a decision, was going to live with the consequences either way.
Well, in Columbine, when they had that, when the big first mass shooting in school, that's one of the things he was asking the students: do you believe in Jesus? And if they did,
They were being shot.
he was.
I have heard that story in various forms. I still can't decide. I think he was shooting Christians. I'm not sure if the story of where he pointed a gun at a girl and said, are you a Christian? She said yes, and then he pulled the trigger. Not sure if that's 100% true or not. But it is my understanding that, yeah, they were targeting Christians. So obviously, we do not want to deny Christ in any form or fashion, or to be ashamed of him. But I think God understands what's in our hearts. And I believe that, like Peter, we could find forgiveness coming back. What's the greater sin than that, of denying Jesus in that circumstance and coming back to him? What's the greater sin than that?
Worshiping idols.
Denying him
Denying God.
Yeah. And that's the sin that God cannot forgive. So anyway, wow, this discussion has gone to a lot of different places.
That's went awful fast too.
Interesting. Judy, we thank you for joining us. We've missed you.
yeah, nice to see you again.
It took me a while to get on. I was trying to log on to the old number you had.
Oh, yeah.
And then I finally thought, well, I'll go to the Facebook page and see what you said. And I see where you changed it. So,
Well, you're out in the woods too. It's hard to get a signal.
yeah,
Meltzer's Woods.
it is.
I recognize it there.
I heard they've had some vandalism there. You heard anything about that?
Well, somebody threw a mattress along the road there not too long ago.
Where is this?
In
Mill-
in the woods.
On the other- She's on in the other end.
Yeah.
For those of you, by the way, that weren't here Sunday and missed our movie, Susan, you were there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you, and Judy, you were there.
Yeah,
What did you guys think of it? Would you
I
recommend it?
liked it. I liked it. It's gonna get interesting.
Yes, it is.
What movie was that?
We're watching The Chosen,
Okay.
and we watched season 1, episode 1, so we'll do episodes 2 and 3 a couple weeks on the 26th.
A
So
while ago, when you was talking about the demon possessed, I thought of the movie.
we'll talk about that next week. All right. So read up on demon possession. I cannot promise we'll do an exorcism, but
Have an old Ouija board.
oh, we don't want to do this with that.